Right, okay, what I'm going to talk about now is just starting off getting used to your machine and the stitches. So up at the top of my machine here I have this dial which relates to this code over here. So I've got it on A at the moment, which is a straight stitch, and this loop here means that my needle is in the center of the foot, whereas this loop here means the needle is slightly to the left, so the thread gets pushed slightly over to the left on the fabric. As I said before, for Lycra, I use the C-stitch, which is really good for a stretch stitch, which is really cool. It's brilliant for Lycra. It stretches with the fabric, is really good. Now this dial here is the length, so you can adjust the length, and there's also a stretch stitch setting. So look in your manual for how that works for your machine. I normally have it on between sort of like 1 and 2, depending on which stitch I'm using, so we can just have it on 1 for now. What I recommend you do is you get a piece of fabric, whether it's Lycra or cotton or whatever it is, just get in fact, go to your local store, just get a metre of really, or half a metre of really cheap, or fat quarters, really cheap fabric, and just test out your stitches. So I've got it on A, which is our nice straight stitch here, which I've just been using to make some pillow cushions, and this is one of the fabrics that I've been using. So what I do is I just get it in position where I want to do my stitch, make sure both threads are out the back of the machine, and then at the back here I have a lever. You see this lever here? And that lever pushes the foot down, and the foot just keeps the fabric in place. So you mustn't pull or push the fabric because there are teeth underneath here, which will guide the fabric through, but you can just steer and give it guidance as to which direction you want it to go in. So I would just go up and down, up and down. A really good tip is this button here, which is the backwards button, which basically acts as a knotting function. So I always start my stitches, so I'll go 1 forward, and then I'll just go back a few, and then I'll go forward. And that just knots the beginning of the stitches that I'm doing. And you can see I haven't got any hands on it, and it's feeding the fabric through all by itself. But I normally just keep a hand on it just to make sure it's going the way I want it to. And then I put more pressure on the foot, and it will get to the end. Just make sure you never put your hand anywhere near the needle. Okay. And then what you can do is you can just rotate it. So my needle is still in there. Just be careful where the needle's positioned. If it's still in the fabric, that's fine. You can just carefully rotate the fabric and put the foot down. If it's if you don't want it to be in the fabric, just make sure you use this lever here on the left, and it will pull the needle up and out. So I'm going to go forward with the same stitch. I don't need to do a backward stitch here because this is a continuous stitch. I'm going to lift my foot up again, and then I'm going to come back around. You can see the stitch that I did before. It's not the most straight that I've done, but it gives you an idea. You just play around with the different sizes, the different lengths. You can change it as you want. So I normally have, when I'm using it, I'm actually going to clamp down my foot. I'm going to pull my needle out like that, and I'm going to switch over to C, and I'm going to show you the zigzag stitch. Okay, so there's a stitch, the needle moves in a completely different way. So, okay, and now I've got a problem with my, what's happened? See, this sometimes happens, you just have to pull it out. There we go. I've got a little cutter on the side of the machine, which is really handy. Now we make sure that our threads, that goes through the front there, it comes out the back. We've got the one from the bobbin and the one from the needle coming out the back. Let's start from the other end. And we'll put down, I haven't actually tried zigzag stitch on this fabric, so I'm not sure how it's going to work, but let's go for it. I'm not going to go backwards just not to annoy my machine, but let's give it a go. You can see at the back we've got a lovely zigzag. That's gorgeous. And you can adjust the size as you want to. Now if I wanted to knot that, I would press my button, which is my backwards button. And I always do this a couple of times just to make sure it's definitely back, forward, back, just to make sure it's really well knotted. My needle is up, so that's okay. Always check if your needle is up or if it's in the fabric, it needs to be up and out. Just make sure it's nice and high. And then I lift my foot and then I pull my fabric out. And there you go. There's the zigzag. You just have a little play. Just give it a go, have a little play. And then what you can do is start to get some fabric and like 2 pieces and join them together and make a seam. Always, you know, putting the back of the fabrics together. And then when you've finished, you know, you don't want all these bits of thread here, so you just use your scissors and you just trim it all up and look nice and neat. So what I'll do in my next video is just show you some of the creations that I have made. And yeah, they're pretty cool. I'm quite chuffed with them. They're not perfect, but they're cool. Okay, see you later. Bye.